And today we'll be talking about part one of the two-part webinar series of what's new with Creo 9. So for our agenda today, we will be talking about some of the Creo 9 enhancements. So system enhancements, user interface and experience, core modeling enhancements, and then finally model-based design and detailing enhancements. So we'll start off with some of these system updates. So for system updates, Chromium is now the new default embedded browser for Creo. Internet Explorer is finally ended. Microsoft has announced the official end life of Internet Explorer as of yesterday, actually, June 15th, 2022. Creo is now going to be using Chromium moving forward. In Creo 7 and 8, the user can continue to use Internet Explorer using that config option on the screen there, but for Creo 9, Internet Explorer will no longer be available. So for the future outlook, PTC is hopeful to offer more support for Chromium as an embedded browser, but that requires some architecture changes from Microsoft to enable this. Some more system enhancements. So PTC has worked real hard on creating some security updates. So all of your open source proprietary code, images, libraries, and systems, PTC has improved the security of all of those files with their ongoing work and development. Along with that, we have an improved workflow for accessing floating licenses. So users can now access floating licenses by going to the options and clicking on that floating licenses icon and choosing which floating licenses they are allowed to choose. All right, moving on to graphics. Creo 9 has some enhancements around the graphics. So we have an improved display of HDRI images. So now when we import HDRI images into Creo, they will automatically be adjusted with a gamma value to improve their display. The default gamma value is 2.2, but that can be adjusted through the shade and reflection options in Render Studio. We also have a new config option to enable or disable this gamma correction for HDRI images. So basically the benefits of this, as you can see in the pictures on the right, in Creo 9 we're going to see much more crisp, light images as they're brought in as HDRI images. All right, user interface and user experience enhancements. So for our user interface enhancements, we have updated dashboard modernization. So we have continuation for modernization in NC, AR, and sensors within Creo. When we open up new Creo windows in Creo 9, they will have the same size as previous windows that we've opened, which is a nice touch. And then we have a better structured Creo parametric options menu. Like we said, we have easier access to licensing, and now we have graphics related information included in the help and system information. For the user experience, there's been a couple cool updates that PTC has implemented. And the first one is we are now able to rotate models using our keyboard arrows. So if we hold down Shift and use our keyboard arrows, it will rotate that model around the specific model axis. If we want to rotate about the screen center, we can hold down Shift and Alt, and that will also rotate the model around. Now this rotation angle is 15 degrees by default, but we can change that through configuration as well. We also have an enhancement to the zoom to selected icon. So I think the standard is zoom of 1 times, but we now have a configuration option to change that as well. There's also been some selection enhancements while modeling in Creo. We have enhanced multi-body selection as well as container context evaluation. So in the past, let's say we had 2 bodies in Creo 8 and we had a round that we were wanted to investigate, and we created a body merge. In Creo 8, if we tried to edit the definition on that round, it would bring up the definition for the body merge instead of the round. Now Creo 9, it's much smarter in detecting what we want to edit the definition for, and just provides more efficiency in that way. We also have a new select related option that has evolved from the select from parents option. So now we're able to investigate parents and children of certain selected features. For user experience, again, we have the ability now in Creo 9 to export mass properties to CSV and XML formats. If we wanted to use them downstream for other applications outside of Creo, we're now able to do this as well. All right, now getting into the core modeling updates. So there's been some enhancements with the sketcher specifically. We now have a modernized project and offset tool where we can now use chain and loop selection workflows within our project and offset sketcher tools, whereas in the past we weren't able to do that. We also have enhanced and enriched inspection tools for completed sketches. So if you have a sketch in Creo, you don't know what's going on with it, why it's not completed, we now have the ability to highlight that geometry to diagnose what is wrong with it. So we have some configuration options to highlight overlapping sketch entities, intersecting, and junctions as well. Along with this, we also now have the option to auto-scale our first sketch. And this is something that a lot of users have been frustrated with in the past. They go in and create a new sketch, and of course, it's about 10 times larger than what they want. Now we have the option to auto-scale this. So as soon as we change one dimension in that new sketch, all of the other dimensions will auto-scale to fit that dimension. All right, so let's head over to Creo and show you guys some new functionality around rotation, selection enhancements, and sketcher improvements, and also multi-body feature definition. All right, so I have a part open here, and this part contains 3 different bodies. So we have body 1, which is this volume here that's kind of purple color. We have body 2, which is this blue volume here, and then finally body 3, which is the yellow volume over here. Now let's check out some of the new project functionality that has been enhanced in Creo 9. So if we turn on our plane display here, you can see that I have a plane that's located about a couple millimeters above this protrusion feature here. Let's say we wanted to extrude some of the geometry of this onto that plane. So I'll go ahead and select this and click our extrude button. And now if we do project, we can see that this new window pops up and it's asking us to select items. So similar to Creo 8, we could select these items one by one, but now in Creo 9, we're able to use the chain and loop functionality that we would be able to use for selecting in regular geometry operations. So I can hold down Control and hit chain, and you can see that we can chain these sections together. I can also use loop control. So if I hold down Shift, it'll grab that entire loop as well. Within this mini toolbar, we also have another button here for creating the geometry and keeping this tab open. So if I utilize that, I can hit that button and then move forward to select more of these objects here. And you can see our completed sketch. So we'll go ahead and finish that up to create our geometry. All right, so let's put in a round here for this body 2. So I'm going to put in a simple round at the inlet of this hole here. And now let's say for some reason we wanted to merge body 2 and body 3 together. So I'll go ahead and do that. Click on merge, click on body 2, and then body 3 to merge them together. We can now see in our model tree that we have 2 bodies, the second body being our new merged bodies together. Now in the past, if I wanted to edit this round and edit the definition, it would edit the merge function instead of the actual round. Now in Creo 9, if I go to edit this, we can see that we have the ability to change that round instead of changing our body merge. All right, now let's take a look at some of the new sketch functionality in terms of auto scaling. Let's go ahead and create a new part. And we'll go ahead and maybe extrude on the front plane here. And we'll add some geometry to this sketch. So you can see as I complete the sketch, we have values that are way larger than we would want. But really all I have to do is click on one of these. So we'll click on the top one, change this to 10, and you can see that all of these values have automatically auto-scaled to that value. I know this was a problem for many users in the past, so I'm really happy that they implemented this change as well. So now let's say we have some intersecting lines, maybe a couple junctions here, and we know that this sketch is not complete, but we're wondering why. Now with the new highlighting options, we're able to see where these intersections are. So you can see that we have an intersection here for this intersecting line, as well as junctions for different entities highlighted in red. So it's much easier to figure out what is wrong with your problematic sketches and why they're not complete in Creo 9. All right, moving on to some more core modeling enhancements. One of the biggest things was this new feature called Divide Surface. So this new feature allows you to take a surface and divide it through a sketch projection or a chain. And this replaces the surface region that was previously only available in Creo Simulate. We can now do this in any Creo modeling application. Along with that, we can also unify surfaces. So if we have 2 divided surfaces, we can use the unify feature to put them back together again as well. How does this work with model-based design and downstream apps? So divide surfaces can be used in several different ways. We can change the appearance for divide surfaces. We can attach annotations. We can leverage some semantic query designation in terms of surface finish, geometric tolerances, and other things as well. If we decide we wanted to export this to a step file, that step file will pick up those divided surfaces and label them as 2 different surfaces. We can also visualize performance metrics for divided surfaces in Creo view. And finally, we can use these divided surfaces as toolpaths for different Creo applications such as Creo NC or Creo CMM. All right, so let's take a look at how this works in Creo. All right, so as I pull up my model here, we can see that again, we have a multi-body model here. The first body being the gray portion and the second being this purple cylinder attached to the bottom here. Now there's a few things or two different methods of dividing surfaces in Creo 9. And the first is by using sketches. So let's go ahead and unhide these sketches. And you can see that I have my sketch here on this planar surface for this top body. If I wanted to divide this surface using this sketch, I'll go up to our split command, hit the drop down for divide surface. I'll then select my surface to divide and the sketch associated with that. And you can see that it pops up a geometry preview of how that will look as we divide this surface. If we wanted to flip the divided side, we can change that option as well. So now as I select this, you can see that we have two options for this plane, or this planar surface, of our two different surfaces that we created using that tool. What we can also do is project a sketch onto different surfaces to split them as well. So let's say I wanted to split all of the rounded surfaces by this linear sketch. What I'll do is, again, go to Split and Divide Surface. I'll go ahead and click on the surfaces that I'm interested in dividing here. And then I'll click on my sketch to divide those surfaces. And again, now, if you hover over these, you can see that these surfaces are their own identity, their own feature that we can utilize for different downstream applications. Another cool thing that we can do is we can take a sketch that has letters, and we can easily take that, wrap it around our geometry, and using flexible modeling, we can create embroidered text within our part. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go over to Split, Divide Surface. We'll click on our surface. Actually, first we need to wrap this around. So we'll go to Wrap, and we'll select our sketch and our destination. And you can see now we have that wrapped sketch around our geometry here. And now we can go into Divide Surface, click on our surface, and click on our sketch here. So now if we hover over the letters, you can see that they're designated as their own surface. And now we can go ahead and use flexible modeling to offset that to create an indentation or a protrusion for that text. Now the second way that we can create divide surfaces is through the use of chains. So let's say we wanted to designate the intersection between these two bodies as its own surface. What we can do is first use the intersect tool. We can intersect our two bodies to create that chain. So now if I hide this body, you can see that we have this chain that has been created from that intersection. Now if I go to, again, divide surface, and this time we'll click on chain, we can pick our surface and then our chain to divide that surface. Now with these divided surfaces, there's a few different things that we can use. We can change the appearance of certain surfaces. So if I wanted to maybe change this appearance to a red color, I could do that. We can attach notes to our surfaces. So let's say I wanted to make this red, and maybe attach a note that says, this is our intersecting, oops. This is our intersecting surface. I can also do that. And a few other things I can do because these surfaces are designated as their own features. All right, so after we know how to divide surfaces, you can kind of think of some of the use case examples that we can use this new feature for. We can use this for geometric definition. We can define contact areas, performance metrics, manufacturing requirements. We can also use this for aesthetics. So we can attach surface finishes, appearances, and textures to these divided surfaces. We can use this in process definition. So we can highlight to certain surfaces for manufacturing processes such as um, work instructions or operations. We can also use this in simulation and generative design by applying loads and constraints to different areas and optimizing mesh creations. And then finally, we can perform basic modeling operations like we saw. We can do engravings, flexible modeling, and then surfaces with special handling during operations. All right, moving forward to more of the modeling enhancements. There's been some enhancements around the hole feature. So we now have a configuration option to choose the clearance for our holes. So we can choose a close, medium, or free fit according to the ISO standard for our standard holes. We also have updated control for standard hole notes. So let's say we had a standard hole with a custom note. We can set this configuration option to yes or no, whether or not we want to redefine that note as we change our holes. And then finally, we have improved detection whether regeneration is required for assemblies and hole regeneration within that assembly. There's also been some enhancements to the pattern feature. And really, you're just going to see as we're using Creo 9, we're just going to see a much faster regeneration time. And PTC worked really hard on improving this and changing some of the code to make this a lot faster. And it really is much more efficient in Creo 9. And then also we have increased flexibility. So if we have a pattern with different holes and we wanted to change these holes from standard to simple, instead of having to go back and redefine the entire pattern, we can now go in and change separate holes to be standard or simple. All right, there's also been some updates to our model tree, and a lot of the updates are involved with the enhanced design tree. So the design tree consists of your bodies and quilts and design items such as annotations and materials. And in Creo 9, we have a lot of enhancements around this. We have simpler names for quilts and default body names. We now show consumed bodies and quilts. And now we can create custom groups, which really helps with the organization of our design tree for different things that we kind of are having trouble finding within our model tree. Along with this, we also have a new tool called the Quilt and Body Evolution Tree. So this basically shows the evolution of our geometry based on our bodies and quilts that were involved in making the design. So it basically represents, the step-by-step process of how this was made in terms of bodies and quilts. We also have new commands for our model tree, one being the insert before. We have new commands around insert to quilt and insert to body. And then finally, an enhanced presentation of our insert here command. So let's go back over to Creo 9 and check out some of these model tree enhancements. All right, so I have my same part that I was using for our divide surfaces, and we're going to highlight some of the enhancements with the model tree with this. So if we wanted to see our design tree, it's actually located in the model tree by default. So we have all of our design items, materials, our bodies, our divide surfaces, and things like that. But what we can do is we can actually separate this out into a different tree as well. So now that we've separated our model tree from our design tree, you can see that we have all of our design items over here. One thing that I think could be very useful is this use of custom groups. So if I add a custom group in here, and we'll rename this datums, I can now add all of the datums that I have within my model to this custom group. So now if we're looking for, a random plane within our model tree, we don't have to try to find it if we have a very complex part or assembly. We can just go right over to our design tree and find it within our datums folder. I can also do this with sketches. So let's say we wanted to add another group We'll rename this to sketches. We can go ahead and add all of our sketches into this group as well. It really just helps to organize our model for more faster in context design and finding things that we have trouble finding in our complex model trees. If I look at one of these sketches, I also have some added options as well. Actually, we'll move forward to the other tree here. So this is the evolution tree. So as I open this guy up, you can see that we have all of our quilts and bodies and kind of the evolution of how this was created based on our quilts and bodies here. So this helps in, kind of just laying out what operations were used in terms of multi-body design to create our part, kind of adding that extra layer of detail and usability with our trees. If I wanted to get rid of all these trees, I can go ahead and just click on their icons and minimize them accordingly. All right, for the final section for our part 1 webinar on what's new with Creo 9, we have enhancements around model-based design and detailing. And really there's two main things that PTC did with Creo 9 to enhance the model-based design and detailing. And the first one is around surface finish. So surface finishes are now much easier to set up. We have a lot of customization options for our surface finishes, and overall just a much more efficient workflow for creating and customizing and editing our surface finishes. So as we create our surface finishes, we have a new ribbon design that's introduced. We have a placement ribbon as well as a contextual ribbon to help place our surface finishes and also edit them very easily. We also have a new gallery for our surface finish symbols. This new gallery contains 3 different compliant surface finish standard symbols: ASME, ISO 1302, and ISO 25178. And then finally, we have enhanced surface finish customization that kind of walks you through these standards and what you can add in a very efficient way. And I'll show you guys what this looks like in a little bit here as we go through the demonstration. We also have enhanced symbol placement and editing options. There's a couple configuration options that we can leverage to do that. If we have, we can control the attachment of our last place surface finish to the new place surface finish by using the configuration option seen on the first bullet point here, as well as we can control whether users can change the color of our place surface finishes. Some companies, have a standard color to what they want their surface finishes to be, so we can turn that on and off as well. We also have semantic definition support for our surface finishes, so we can connect them to different references, surfaces, anything that we may want semantically within our model-based design as well. And the second main thing that PTC has updated for Creo 9 is section hatching. So they improve the usability of editing cross sections in drawings as well as in models with a new design ribbon, again similar to the surface finish. We have a new hatch gallery. We can very easily edit hatch properties. We can perform special hatching operations, and we have much easier visibility and inclusion controls with this new ribbon. So with our new gallery, we have a gallery that contains numerous ANSI and ISO standard hatch formations. Our favorite hatches can be pinned for future use. Recently used hatches are added to the top, and quick, efficient things like that have also been added. Along with that, we also have a new hatch tree for our drawings. So with this hatch tree, we are able to quickly select, view, and manage our cross-section hatching, as well as include and format these hatches within our hatch tree. We can also use hatch tree filters to filter out certain sections that we want to manage. And then we also have the ability to search according to these hatch items. So we can search based on hatch area, body, component. We can search hatched items based on their properties, such as if they're excluded or included, as well as shown, hidden, or filled. So for the last portion of this demonstration, we'll head back over to Creo 9 and show you guys what these new enhancements with surface finish and section hatching looks like. All right, so I have a part here. Again, we have multiple bodies with this part. Our body 1 is contained by this gray volume here, representing a housing of some sort. And then our body 2 represents this circular revolve, representing an O-ring. And if we turn on our cross section, we can see it looks something like this on the inside here. So for surface finishing and hatch controls, we can do this all from our annotate tab within our modeling, or we can do it from the drawing. For the purpose of today's demonstration, I'll be doing most of this from our drawing here. So you can see we have a drawing here with 2 simple views. I've added some dimensions for this. And the first thing we're going to look at is surface finish and how that looks like with the new workflow. So now that we're on the annotate tab, we can add surface finish by clicking on the surface finish icon at the top here. And you can see our new ribbon pops up. So in this ribbon, we have some gallery options. We can choose ASME, ISO, generic, machine, unmachine, and a couple more options. We can also bring in customized surface finish symbols if we'd like, if we have those outside of our gallery here. We can also browse for surface finish symbols with this icon. But let's take a look at the customization that we're allowed to do with this. So since I've chosen the ASME standard, we have a bunch of options of filling this surface finish out with different line items. So if we expand this a little bit so it's easier to see, we have a bunch of options of creating our surface finish symbol. So we can have 2 line requirements, we can have up to 5 line requirements for this, and you can see that they automatically populate as we choose them. I'll choose 3 for now. We can also add manufacturing lines. We can extend that line to as far as we want, simply by clicking on and off these different icons that we have. We can also turn on modifiers, so all around or all over. We can turn on processing quotes, and if we ever want to change these values, we're able to do them in the variable text option down below the screen here. We also have material options for removed, not removed, or unspecified. And we also have lane orientation options as well. So we can choose parallel, perpendicular, etc. And then finally, we can add a leader line to the bottom if we'd like. But I think we'll leave it like this. I'm by no means an expert with surface finish annotations, so this might not make sense, but we'll show you guys how this works either way here. So we have some placement options right from this screen here. If we hold down right click, we can choose automatic on entity, normal to entity, similar to Creo 8. We also, within this ribbon, can change the angle and height and select the owner. So if we want this specific surface finish to be referenced to the actual model, we can do that. But if we don't want to do that and we want to just have it referencing the drawing, we can pick that as well. So let's say I want to place this, and we're going to do a normal to entity placement, and we'll just place it right here. We also have some formatting options to change the height, change the color, and things like that. All right, so since I chose this to be linked to our model, if we go back to our model here, go back to our housing, and we look at our design tree here, our design items, you can see we have materials, bodies, and annotations. So we can now see that this annotation has been added directly to our model from our drawing. So I thought that was kind of a cool feature as well. All right, so let's take a look at some of the new hatching capabilities with Creo 9. So if I go to layout and I hover over the hatching, you can now see that we have this selection where it very clearly outlines the hatch. I'll go ahead and select on that. And from this, we can open up this new design ribbon for this. Now, if I open up the hatch gallery, you can see that we have a bunch of different options for our hatches according to different standards. I know when I used to be a design engineer, we would have to create multiple lines with the electric option in 90-degree angles, but now it's all included with this hatch gallery. We can also leverage different materials, so we can use the aluminum hatch, as well as change the color and orientation and thickness as well. We can copy this hatch and utilize it for different things. We can use material hatch if we have a certain hatch that's related to our material in our design tree. We can use a solid hatch or use a hatch that's used in our model. Now let's take a look at our hatch model here. And we can see that we have our two bodies here that are in our hatch tree. If we wanted to include or uninclude or exclude one of these bodies, we could do that from our hatch tree. If we wanted to select, maybe we wanted for this specific one, for our O-ring, we wanted to use a solid hatch, we can do that from our hatch tree. If we wanted to, let's say, select one of these guys, I can click, as I select our hatch here, I can click right click and select the body one hatch by using that right click operation as well. So you can see that the updates that were made to our surface finish and our hatching for Creo 9 makes it much easier to not only create our surface finish symbols or our hatch lines, but also to customize them and very quickly change them as needed. All right, so with that, that's all I have for today. So I'd just like to say thank you for listening in and to join us in July. We're doing a part 2 for the Creo 9 What's New, and we're going to be talking about some of these enhancements as they relate to different extensions. And there's some really cool stuff in that one. So I really advise you guys to join us there and check it out.